You know, when you hear sales tax code, you probably think of boring paperwork, right? Just a bunch of rules and numbers. But today, we're going to look at one that tells a really powerful story. We're diving into the Hannahville Indian Community's sales tax code, and trust me, it's a fascinating look at self-governance and community in action.
So, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the purpose, the why behind it all. Then we'll get into the core rule, that big 6% number. After that, we'll see who doesn't have to pay, how the whole thing is managed, and finally, the most important part, where all that money actually ends up.
All right, first things first. To really get what this document is about, we have to start with its purpose. And let me tell you, this isn't just about collecting cash. It's really a blueprint for building and taking care of a community.
And they don't hide it. It's right there in the text. The mission is crystal clear. It's about using the money from business activity to fund essential services. And get this, it's not just for tribal members. It's for everyone who lives on or even just visits the reservation. That's a pretty powerful statement about what community really means.
Okay, so we've got the why. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of the how. What's the actual engine that makes this whole system run?
It all starts with one simple, straightforward number, 6%. That's the tax. It's levied on the gross proceeds of a sale, which keeps things really consistent and pretty easy to understand for everybody.
Now, the code is also very specific about what kind of sale gets taxed. It's what they call a sale at retail. So what does that mean? Basically, the tax only kicks in on the final sale to the person who's actually going to use the item. It's a smart way to make sure you're not taxing the same thing multiple times as it moves through the supply chain. And what is that 6% actually based on? It's the gross proceeds. That's just a formal way of saying the total amount the business gets for the sale. It doesn't matter if you pay with cash, a credit card, or something else. It's all about the total value of that final transaction.
Okay, but here's a really important thing to remember. This 6% tax is not a blanket rule for every single sale. The code is careful to carve out some really specific and significant exemptions. Let's take a look at who gets a pass.
And this is where you can really see that idea of sovereignty in action. The most important exemptions are for the tribal government itself, businesses owned by the tribe, and tribal members who live on the reservation. This is the community using its own laws to decide for itself who is and who is not subject to its own taxes.
The code also exempts things you might expect, essential goods and services, like food and prescription drugs. Honestly, if you look at your own state's tax laws, a lot of this probably looks pretty familiar. It's just a common sense way to make sure the tax isn't a burden when it comes to life's necessities.
So, having rules is one thing, but how do you actually make sure they're followed? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the mechanics of how the Hannahville Indian community really brings this tax code to life. Well, it all starts with getting official. Any business that needs to collect this tax has to get a business license and permit. This makes sure that everybody who's supposed to be collecting the tax is properly registered and on the books with the tribal government.
And to make sure the whole process runs like a well-oiled machine, the code puts one person in charge of it all, the tribal treasurer. This creates a really clear line of accountability and ensures the system is managed effectively from top to bottom. And make no mistake, this code has real teeth. It's not just a friendly suggestion. If a business doesn't pay the taxes it owes, the tribal council can take them to the community's own tribal court. The court then has the power to shut the business down and figure out exactly how much tax is owed. This is an incredible example of a fully functioning, self-governing legal system at work.
All right, so after all the rules, the licenses, and the collections, we get to the biggest question of all, the one that really matters. Where does this money actually go? What's the real-world impact? And the answer is just beautifully simple. Every single penny collected from this sales tax goes directly into the Hannahville community's general fund. That's it. No complicated detours, no middleman. From there, the tribal council gets to decide how to best invest it right back into their community. This creates this perfect self-sustaining loop. The business happening on tribal lands generates money that flows directly back into the community, funding the exact programs and services that support the people who live and work there. It's a direct line connecting the economy to the well-being of the community.
So when you look at it this way, you realize a sales tax code can be so much more than just a financial tool. It's a declaration. It's a nation taking control of its own economy, providing for its own people, and building its own future on its own terms. It really makes you wonder, what other everyday documents out there are telling a much, much bigger story?